I am not my ancestors' wildest dream. I am their greatest expectation. My ancestors have the expectation of me that I will be here and that I will thrive. And they have that exact same expectation of you, I promise. I think that living in the Western world, there is this idea that Black history somehow started with slavery, or that Black history started with colonization, and that simply isn't true. Black history started with human history. The very first life ever found on this planet was from Africa. That is where we come from. So, though we acknowledge slavery and colonization and several collective traumas as important points of focus, that is not the entirety of what we come from. First of all, even if you did want to count our history beginning at that time, when human beings were taken from Africa through the slave trade to different parts of what is now the diaspora, those slave traders were not taking slaves. They were taking leaders and parents and doctors and architects and healers and artists. So that is actually the beginning of our lineage, not our trauma. I think that it's easy in 2020 to feel like we are somehow more evolved than the people who came before us, somehow more advanced than the people who paved the way for us to be here and to do the certain things that we are here to do. And I think that that's simply not true. I think that we have to reframe what our idea of thriving is. According to my particular contexts, living in this particular society, having a strong command of the language that is used to operate this society, having certain laws that might support people not treating me like crap as much as they would have 100 years ago. There's a certain definition of success and there's a certain definition of thriving that I have according to my context and my resources. So to a certain person, that might look like being able to go to school, get a degree, become whatever career, be able to support a family of how many, to be able to buy property. And that is one definition of success as per this context. What I want to say is that Black people have always been thriving. Even through those times of incredible trauma, we were still thriving. And this is why I think that. The definition of what it looked like to thrive in a time period and space where the law of that country said that you were only a few fifths of a human being, as it did in the United States, the definition of what thriving looked like in that space is different than the space that I'm living in, right? I think about our ancestors who are out here starting wars to fight for our land, to fight for independence. I think of those within my greater lineage as well, who were brought to different parts of the diaspora to work and were never really allowed to see the fruits of their labor ever. I think about what they had to endure and how strong they were, and I'm floored. Fam, it's quarantine right now. I can barely stay in the house. I'm suffering. I'm being like 4 more weeks. I'm like, send help. I can't do it. So when I think about that within my context, and I think about what the people who paved the way for me to be here and to be able to do the things that I'm doing, I am not my ancestors' wildest dream. They are mine. I am their greatest expectation because they are expecting me to be happy and to thrive to the best of my ability. And from the other side, that is the way that they guide me. That is the reason why I take them with me everywhere I go. Every audition or job interview or new place that I step into or new adventure that I have, that is the guidance that I always tap into. We don't always think about Black people throughout history thriving because we are constantly inundated with this idea of being less than or having less than. And then on top of that, we as Black people ourselves are always, as we should, continuing to process what that collective pain is, because it still lives within our bodies, within our families, and within our societies. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. We still need to be still with ourselves and understand what that is on an emotional and a spiritual level, and figure out ways in which we can release ourselves of certain burdens of the trauma that was inflicted on us collectively, no matter which part of the world that you ended up in. Like, that is still real. But what I want to say is that, like, what if we thought about people who were living in some of those really unthinkable times as the thrivers, as per their context? I feel like, to imagine the reality of a slave, to be born into a reality where you're told that you're not even a full person. You are told and shown and abused into continuously being exploited. And so many of those people knew 100% for sure that they would die as slaves. The fact that those people still chose to carry on is absolutely miraculous. The fact that, even though all of society was telling them that that is what their reality and their children's reality would be, there was still an instinct, even on a subconscious, even on like a spiritual or molecular level, to not just survive, but to still, to the best of their abilities, create better lives for their children, to still love, to still invest in the creation of art and community. Like, that to me shows an indication of a spiritual truth that is being lived out, that not only do we deserve to be here, we deserve to prosper. So when I look at those people within my lineage who were part of the first contact of Europeans coming to Africa, when I look at the people who were involved in the fights for civil rights and the fights for keeping language and traditions and culture within my lineage, when I look at what they had to go through, I'm amazed. I am not their wildest dream. They are my wildest dream. That amount of resilience and consistency and strength, despite everything in the world telling them that they should not have that, is so inspiring. When I think about it, I feel like I want to burst with so much possibility and potential. And I just feel strong. Now, I know that as Black people, the idea of strength is really complicated and loaded, and I super understand that. But I think it's because we have continued to define strength as our ability to shock absorb things that we should not have had to shock absorb, right? I think that we should redefine strength. I think that we should define strength as the instinct to know that we are enough. The instinct to know that we deserve more. The instinct to know that we deserve not just freedom, but joy. Joy, 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 joy. And I believe that if those who came before us did not think that we deserved that they deserved that, they would not have had the instinct to carry the lineages forward, right? Everybody would have just like straight up killed themselves. And that was not the reality, right? That's the reason that we're all sitting here today. So thinking about that makes me really excited. Now, I am not by any means trying to romanticize any of those times in our lives. I am not trying to romanticize slavery or colonization or first contact or any of those traumas that were inflicted on our people. That's not at all my intention. Those things were horrible and unacceptable and continue to manifest themselves into the life that we live today, right? But what I am saying is that our ancestors figured out what their definition of thriving could be throughout their particular circumstances, and they did that. of course, as the next generation, there are things that we're going to do differently. There's several ways in which we're going to see things differently, and that's fine. That's just all that's something that they did as well, isn't it? When you think about it, that's just part of life, and that's just part of heritage, and that's just a part of generations continuing to be born. But I just want to invite us to know that thinking that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams alone might make us feel like they did not dream as big as we do. And I think that's simply not true. We have certain privileges and resources that they did not have, so our definitions of success might look different. And absolutely, of course, so many people from from those generations before would look at what we're doing and be like, wow. But here's the tea, and this is what I really believe. I think that they do look at what we're doing and they do say, wow, but I think that they dream bigger than we ever will. I think that my ancestors are the ones who have me on this path and who are guaranteeing my success, because they are actually seeing things from the spirit realm in ways that I actually will not even be able to fathom as long as I am alive. Like when I cross over and die and I'm sitting over there drinking traditional beer with them, being like, oh, I see why you wanted me to go to this place at this time and make this play about that thing. Because, like, for example, I'm a playwright and an actor, and I do try to, like, my intention as an artist is to be of service to my community. So I am always trying to write things that have like a positive message or something that I feel like helps my people, right? But like I might make a play with a particular message that I think is super positive. Someone else might see that play and miss what I'm trying to say completely. They might go on and regurgitate it wrong or have a different inspiration, or maybe something else within them is sparked by just sitting in the audience with me, right? That person might go home and tell their friend, their auntie, their cousin, their dog, who knows what. Several years later, that idea might be filtered out down into something that may or may not have anything to do with the initial thing that I have even said. And then who knows, that idea might be combined with something else that came from somewhere else, who knows, and that little young person might come up with that idea and something will click in their brain and they might go take over the world. They might go heal the universe. They might go and invent something. They might go and, I don't know, inject this global consciousness with like the shake up and the wokeness that we're all craving. Who knows? I don't know. I know that this path is bigger than me as an individual. I know that this path is bigger than even just that of my family, right? So I know that we are a global family. We are an incredible and rich Black community, and I really believe strongly that our ancestors are the ones who are guiding us to have this success in the first place. So I don't want us to think that we are successful in spite of them, even though I do want us to acknowledge where we came from and what's impressive about that. But I just think that I am who I am, how I am, where I am because of my ancestors. I carry them with me into every audition, every application that I write, every job interview, every new experience that I step into. They are with me, and they make me stand up a little bit taller. We have always been thriving. That thriving has just looked different according to different contexts, but don't make people make you seem like you are an exception to the thriving that we have already been doing our whole lives. Let's find ways to continue to stoke this in one another. I'm not trying to like talk out of my butt here by any means. I don't think I'm saying anything that's even idealistic, to tell you the truth. I think I'm just speaking the truth. But I think that we in the Western world are connected to a certain part of that history, especially living on Turtle Island. I'm Zambian. I was raised in the Caribbean, and now I live on Turtle Island. And I am... There's a lot of the understanding of Blackness that has to do with events like slavery, and there is very real repercussions as to what those realities meant and how they affect us today. And I'm not by any means trying to deny, romanticize, or avoid that. I just want to encourage what I believe is my truth, that I am not my ancestors' wildest dream. They are mine. When I look at everything that they went through, fam, like I can't even, it actually makes me bubbly. Like I actually don't even know what to do with the energy. When I think of everything that they went through, and they still were able to figure out ways to love and thrive and build and make family. I can barely stay in the house for 4 weeks in this quarantine, okay? That is how different of my context it is. So I'm completely in awe of them. I'm so grateful to be able to, at this age, have this really strong connection where I feel like we're always in constant communication, and it just like, it has saved my life to be able to have that sense of inner support and communion. And yeah, I'm not their wildest dream. I am their greatest expectation, and it is their expectation that I thrive. It is their expectation that I stand up for myself. It is their expectation that I am happy. And the reason that I know that is that anytime that I'm not living in my truth, anytime that I'm underselling myself, anytime that I am letting people like walk all over me, or doing something that is not in alignment with that greater purpose that is mine, that is theirs, that is bigger than me, I actually, it doesn't feel good in my spirit. Wow, that was that was spirited. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah, my name is Makambe. I am your sister in this thing called life. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I will catch y'all later, but until then, stay excellent. Bye.